A lot going on in Week 5. Plenty to talk about with the teams, the players, the All-Star game, the impending trade deadline. But we're going to hit the biggest story of the week right up the top. Hi, everyone. T-Sibs with you. We've got Vibes, Prince of Zeus, and MGML. And we're going to start off the show with a special guest, one of the main guys on the League Gaming site, oversees a lot of what goes on with hockey, a game changer for EA, and a guy who's had to deal with a lot of crap this week. Yeah, his name is Brody McDonald. You know him as LG McDonald on League Gaming. He joins us today. Brody, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. Thanks for having me again. It's always nice to jump on, and talk about some pressing issues and get the information out to the community as quickly as possible.
Well, obviously, the biggest topic of discussion on NHL PSN the past few weeks, really, and certainly this week, has been the bannings of Chiz Nasty, Scoots, and, of course, Jay Claus. Let's talk about – I'd like you to talk a little bit about the process that was taken for this situation. What kind of work behind the scenes is done to vet this out fully before you guys decide, hey, we need to mention this to the community and talk about it?
It's a long process. I know with Sloshy's recent promotion to our league director at the NHL level, this has kind of fell on his plate as one of his first big projects. Personally, I think he handled it really well. Him and I were in communication pretty much during the whole process as he pieced some stuff together, talked to some people. He had me check some stuff on the back end in regards to locations, that kind of stuff, right? So it is quite a amount of work. I've been in the business of doing this for a long time, so right. You have to kind of filter through everything that we got, and then you have to kind of take into consideration the source of where it's coming from. What are they trying to gain from this? Is there anything they can gain? Is it going to be authentic? We have definitely seen situations where people have put stuff together that potentially could be fabricated. It's kind of something that I'm dealing with on the Xbox side right now. Player had a falling out with his GM, who's like, they've been good friends for a long time, club mates for many seasons. I have a falling out, and then now I'm looking through a ton of information in regards to how this player potentially has fabricated some proof to try to get his owner and his GM removed for second tag issues. So, like you said, the process is quite a long, drawn out one. We're trying to do our best in regards to add some more verification and take our part and do our due diligence as a website and as a community to try to get rid of this as best as possible.
MG, I know you got a couple of things to ask. Why don't you jump in first?
Okay. I was wondering if after this whole incident with J Claus, is there going to be any changes to the selection process or the criteria for becoming an owner in the NHL?
It's kind of interesting because I know when the process took place this season in regards to owner selections and management selections, the BOG did their due diligence. They had a little bit of information saying that potentially Jay Claus was someone who had some involvement in something shady from past seasons. So they really kind of sat down during the interview process and grilled them with what at the time was just kind of hearsay, and hit them with a bunch of what we could find out. And at the time, there really wasn't anything that we could kind of stick him with or really get him on. So we kind of we left it as is. We kind of put it in our back pocket and said, we'll continue doing our research, and if something else comes up, we'll review it. So it's kind of interesting, having the 26, well, for me, it's probably more like maybe 15, 16 seasons of experience on the Xbox side, and then jumping over to PlayStation being the fourth season. I've kind of, over those 15, 16 seasons, my mentality has kind of changed in regards to, owner selections and management selections, When I first started, the biggest draw was we were always trying to bring in the best players as possible. We're always kind of drawing the top talent, try to give them in management positions to kind of breed a more competitive environment, to bring in more competitive players, so on and so forth. The PlayStation approach, in my opinion, I'd like to try to go a little different direction in regards to trying to give these positions to people that are deserving, people that are good for the community, people that can also draw in Obviously, we've seen some of the depth in PlayStation increase this season, obviously with our Xbox guys switching back and forth, but also even though the PlayStation League continues to grow every season, we just look at our prospect numbers. With the current status right now, 15 CHL games, a player jumps from prospect to amateur. So every season we're continuing adding more and more prospect players, which just goes to show you that the league continues to grow and get bigger. So in regards to the selection process, the BOG will be looking at a lot of different things. I do know there's a couple people that have been mentioned in regards to some of the shady business that have been going on that are at this point now. We have nothing solid on them to perhaps go down the ban route. But I know Sloshy and I have been talking in regards to people that potentially will just be no management listed moving forward, just because of either knowing and not coming forward or having some sort of involvement that we can't prove enough to issue a ban. So we probably will see some adjustments to how we handle business moving forward.
Okay. Do you worry that with the rules in place, like the 3-game limit and other rules that so many players seem to try to break with the second tags, do you think that will eventually lead to losing players to other leagues that don't have those kind of rules?
That's always in the back of your mind, right? Like, I think what makes LG very different is the fact that we have the structure, right? No, the structure, like a league like, I think it's VG is the other PlayStation league. No, they don't have the same restrictions in regards to games played in the week. So, if players can play like almost every game in the week, it does kind of cut out the need to really second tag if you can just play them all yourself anyways, right? But the structure that we have here in LG, having the game limits and the 3 games and all that stuff is really adds a level of depth, which really makes winning that much harder, right? Now, I really think that if you want to play every single game in a week, then just go play club. Like, that's what it's there for, right?
Right.
Where these league structures are kind of put together to build a team environment, a team atmosphere, meet some new people, meet some new friends, and try to work together for a common goal. So yeah, you know what? There potentially may be some decreases and some people who are upset with some of the rulings or don't like how things are going and may decide to go somewhere else, which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. Personally, we've been doing this for a very long time. The website continues to innovate, get bigger, get better, do a bunch of cool things, which is, probably why Triz has been so quiet on the website lately, because he's busting his ass working on a couple really, really big projects that we may be announced either today or tomorrow in regards to some stuff. So, it is obviously, people have their own opinions on how things are handled. People have their own opinions on, me as commissioner or staff as staff, which is fine, right? If you scroll down to the, below the chat box, the first sticky thread right now is in regards to, how you can post about some mid-season reviews or anything you want to talk about. If something happened this season you don't like, or there's a change you want to make, post in there. That's the community has a big say in what things are, how things go and how things change, and I think that that's a big draw, and that's how we continue to grow as a community rather than just one person kind of making all the decisions.
We've discussed the bannings on this show last week, and it was absolutely an emotional topic, and it certainly got the rest of the league riled up with the way that we were talking about it. What kind of feedback are you getting from other members of LG? Is there a good deal of acceptance and understanding of the ruling, or are people perplexed about how you go about doing it? How's the reaction been from the community?
It's hard to say. To me, directly, I haven't really heard too much yet. I know the players that were issued, and from past experience, player gets issued a site ban, and it's either I'm getting messages on Xbox right away, or someone sending me a message on Skype, or whatever, right? Someone's there to complain or bitch and complain about being removed, or try to plead their innocence one last time, even though it's the writing's on the wall that they're gone. The players that recently have been removed, I haven't heard a single thing from them yet. Like, not even a hey sorry, not even a fuck you, nothing. So it's kind of got. That right there kind of piques my interest. I know Scoots is vocal about a bunch of stuff, and him and I have had several debates and chats one-on-one before. So to not hear from him at all, I think it's kind of obvious that everything that they were accused of and everything that came out it is what it is, right? They've kind of taken it and for what the ban is, and there's nothing they can really say now to move forward because it's what's done is done. So, as a community, like I said, PM system's there for you guys to discuss anything with me, or if you have any questions. The tagging system's a key feature too. Now, I get a ton of notifications, and a lot of my notifications come from anytime someone files a complaint or late stats or whatever it may be, right? But I always go through my notifications every single time I log on just to make sure that like I get them for when people quote something I wrote. I get them for when people mention me. So I make sure I go through those, and I actually click on them every single time and read what someone said about a comment I made, and I try my best to keep up on everything. So if there is anything, feel free to reach out. I know there's a lot of questions. Right now, it seems like majority of the PlayStation one-on-one questions I get are from a lot of brand new players who are having a difficult time understanding the CHL structure and trying to get time in, trying to get games played. So I spend a lot of time dealing with those new players, trying to explain the culture and trying to explain like how the setup is and what the future is and what the plans are going to be and how we're going to move forward. So right now, it's hard to really say what the community is saying. It's going to be divided, right? Some people are going to say it's stupid. There's people who are against site bans. There's people who are going to say, oh, it's not enough evidence. And there's people who are going to be like, well, finally, people that are getting in trouble for something they did wrong. So it's really, the community's always been really divided on this topic. And from past experience, the majority tends to be silent. So all the people that usually, you don't see posts made, thanking staff for doing a good job, but you always see the ones that say, no, you guys are idiots for making this decision. So I usually take that as if nothing's being said, it's because people agree. Because the only time people have something to say is when they're upset or complaining about complaining about the issue, right? So
yeah,
that's how I kind of look at it.
Well, it's interesting. We already have a poll up. Does the punishment fit the crime for these three folks? And right now, 61.7% are saying it should have been tougher. 34.6% say it's about right, and 3.7% say it was too harsh. So I think not only have you done a pretty good job of it, there are people who, certainly plenty of people so far, who think it could have absolutely been tougher. So to me, at least initially right now, the feedback we're getting, it's people are, and not just from the vote, we see it in the comments, people are, thankful that it was caught, wish that Season 2 could have been different. A lot of speculation on who would have won it now, and so there's a lot of that talk, and in a way that's kind of interesting. But certainly, it looks like at least the AHL community is thinking that these guys got what they had coming to them.
And it's kind of funny, man. Like the whole process of figuring this stuff out it's difficult at times, right? Like it's difficult to figure out who's playing on what or what's going on, and it makes things really complicated. The Xbox ID system we have is pretty interesting because it gives us access to a ton of information. So it'll give us access to screenshots, to game clips, to everything, right? But it's also a verification system for accounts. And that's the one big piece that we lack on the PlayStation side. But luckily, with Triz's capabilities, he's been able to kind of piece together ideas of how he can make things work. So that's why we're getting different levels and better levels of verification on the PlayStation side to kind of make things a little bit easier and hopefully to rid the league of this stuff. But at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is it really just comes down to the community as a whole coming together and saying like, enough's enough. I don't want any part of this. This isn't the league I signed up for. So as soon as you get information, it needs to come to us as soon as possible, and we can kind of talk you through certain things, or help us get more information, or review what you have and try to go forward, right? Like it's the community really has to take a stand and say enough's enough. And based on those poll numbers, it's glad to see the community is rallying behind the staff and really supporting the decisions that are made. The past 4 seasons of PlayStation, the staff is taking a beating publicly and one-on-one in PMs. There's been some pretty ridiculous things said to those few members who volunteered their time to give everyone a league to play in, and it's nice to see that's starting to turn. I think obviously some structural changes makes a big difference, and it's not a lot of I shouldn't say not a lot, but not as much workload and responsibility on individuals to continue doing it. Rob Chainsaw, everyone, you guys know him as Birthday Machine, but Rob Chainsaw was a BOG under me when we were on the other Xbox website, and he really helped grow that CHL league over there to what I have here on LG, right? Being of full capacity, and he's a prime example of someone that just if we could pay someone to be staff, he would be the one member that we'd be giving money to come back, because he was such an asset. And it's unfortunate to see someone like him just get completely burnt out with attitudes and the way people talk to each other and how people talk to us, and that's the main reason why he isn't staff anymore. It's not because of me. It's not because of guys like you that are good members for the community. It's because of the bad apples that have just burnt him out, and that's why he's not here anymore, right? So It's unfortunate that we got to those points with certain members. BJ is probably another good example. Like BJ stepped up and was staff for beginning of the season, and then I guess from my personal opinion, it kind of became a little too much. And then obviously he had some issues with work that kind of caused him to decide that maybe this isn't for me. It's just too bad because we have some pretty good members in the community that are a little bit hesitant to step into these roles to help out, just because of some of the bad apples that make this position pretty undesirable at times.
Right.
So, going forward in this current season and those to come, right?
Yeah.
How do you think the bans in particular, with those like Scoots and J-Claws, even Chiz, are going to affect like this season? Because Chicago's in a playoff run, so is the Devils as well. What do you think is going to happen basically with those teams currently?
This is that's a really good question, and it's kind of something that's always in the back of my head. Like every single time that we pull the trigger and we get rid of people for doing shit like this, like there's always innocent bystanders every single time, right? Like you look at the players that are on those two rosters that had like nothing to do with this. They had no idea what was going on, and now they are some of them are up in arms about like, oh, this sucks, like you're gonna screw our chances at another cup, blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, like it is disappointing and it is upsetting for me to look at these issues and and to deal with those problems. But like what I've always fall back to is I always say to myself in regards to it sucks for those 17 players on that roster, but I'm looking out for the 17 players on the 29 other teams that are playing by the rules, right? So it's hard to say, it's nice to see some people have stepped up and have taken on the responsibilities of management on those two rosters. I'm looking at the rosters right now, so it's nice to see some guys step up and continue to fill the shoes of those who are gone. Obviously, Odie and Tendy have had success on the Xbox side, and that team is pretty much an Xbox team to some degree. So, those guys have success in the past and have been pretty good managers. So, I don't think really New Jersey's going to have much of an issue. Chicago, still is a pretty strong team looking at their roster. So, hopefully they're going to be okay, and hopefully the players on that team can kind of look past their own personal anger in regards to what happened and kind of look at the overall picture, which we're trying to push for and make sure that everyone understands that we're trying to do what's best for the majority of the players, especially the people that are trying to do things the fair way and the legit way. So I wish them both best of luck, and it's unfortunate it had to come to these situations, right. But it had to happen. Like there's no doubt in my mind that the decisions that were made had to happen. And the same thing kind of goes for Detroit. And it's kind of nice to be on the mic here right now to talk about this because I've posted it and I'll say it to everyone again. In regards to all those games that were overturned from Detroit, the initial discussion that I had was with Haji, and he was like, well, we're going to overturn these games. And I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, how many games are we going to do? And I was like, I'm trying to think back in my head from the last time I actually did this. And I'm like, I can't remember. And he's like, well, the rules do state there's a 2-week statute of limitation. And I was like, oh, yeah, fuck, I added that in. I was like, shit. I'm like, what week are we in? So he told me, and I was like, oh, this sucks. I'm like, that means there's a chance that there's going to be some games that won't be overturned. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't like it. The BOG didn't like it. And I was like, well, if that's what the rules say, that's what we're going to have to go. Right. Decision comes down, community blows up. And one of the biggest PMs I received is in regards to that one statement. The statute of limitation only applies to minor offenses. So I kind of slapped myself on the wrist and said, you know what, I probably should have read that before I gave them guidance on what to do. So the decision was that all those games do get overturned based on the wording of that actual rule that I wrote probably 5 or 6 years ago. So that one's kind of on me, not on the staff for how that played out. So, but at the same time, those are things that have to happen. They had to be the way it is. And,
right.
I do feel bad for the players that that are here to play games and here to win hockey games. Are playing legit and want to be part of this. I feel bad for you guys that are on those teams, but I feel a lot better knowing that there's 29 other teams that are now, aren't going to get screwed out of something down the road.
Well, let me ask you something. Part of the discussion that we've had here off air amongst us the last week is, season 2 of the AHL on the PSN side. Obviously, Rockford wins that and that season, and so I don't think we've heard yet on what might happen with that season. Do you have any indication that anything's going to change with how things played out there?
Yeah, we've talked amongst us as staff. It is obviously from what's occurred and what the bans have been issued. The title that was issued that season will be stripped. The banners will be gone and it'll kind of be left vacant.
Wow.
There's been some talks in regards to should the team that they beat be given it? And we've had this discussion from a long time ago too, because I've seen this happen. I don't know. This is probably 5 years ago. Something happened, and when we stripped the title as well too. So there has been a lot of talks in regards to should we give it to the losing team. My personal thoughts are no. Like they didn't win it, so they shouldn't get it. Even though people can say, oh, maybe they would have won if there wasn't cheating. So as of right now, the talks have been in regards to just completely leaving that title vacant from that season, based on recent information and based on what's kind of come up.
Yeah, and certainly, you heard Vibes say wow, because his Chicago Wolves went down in 7 to the same Rockford team. So, who has the claim, them or Hartford, who got beaten in the finals? And that's been a lot of the discussion. So I kind of like the idea that, you're leaving it open. I think not only does it, because of who could actually have a claim for it, I think it also sends a message of, hey, you know what? If you do this kind of thing, you're screwing it up for everybody, and then we have a season where it's just a mess because, a couple of individuals decided to really circumvent the rules, and they have to understand how they're affecting everybody else. And I think that's what the message is when you use something like that.
It's kind of not ironic, but like the NHL community has been hit and miss for a long time. It's very few and far between. We have people that are here to do the right thing, or aren't going to be scumbags about things, and it's difficult, right? So right. It's nice to see us continue to do the stuff that we're doing to help the community grow, and continue to do fun things like this and be positive, and hope we're going to continue to keep pushing a positive attitude and influence. Some of the announcements and some of the stuff that's going to come out probably next week in regards to I'll drop a little hint in regards to the future Pro Series will definitely benefit the leagues, I think, a little bit better moving forward. So that's all I'm going to say for now. But I think that the whole idea is that we're coming to a point now in LG that we're above 6,000 hockey players signed up for both Xbox and PlayStation combined now, and we're doing a lot of really good things in regards to media, in regards to website upgrades, in regards to just like game streaming, just in regards to a lot of stuff. So we're trying to get to the mentality that we're doing all these things for those of you that are doing that are playing by the rules, that are doing things the right way, and that are here for the right reasons. So we're going to look to see what we can do to ensure that it's kind of an all or nothing attitude, all or nothing mentality. So if you're going to be a part of this, if you want to be a part of this and that, well, you got to be a member in good standing to be part of all of it, right? So that's kind of the direction we're looking, which kind of sparked the interest in regards to that one poll about should the bans carry from both leagues, right? So if you're active in the PlayStation League, active in the Xbox League, you scumbag your Xbox team because you get traded to a team you don't want to play for and quit, should you still be allowed to continue playing on the PlayStation side? There's a lot of that, like mom and dad per se, where I don't care if I get traded, I don't care if I quit here because I'm just going to continue to play there. So those are things that I don't want to do. We don't really want to put the leagues against themselves. It just gives a really negative influence and effect on managers. And at the end of the day, without quality managers and people that are dedicated to the league, we don't really have much of a league to run, right? Like, in the 4th season of what we're doing on PlayStation, having quality owners in these places have really made the league a lot smoother. Aside from some major issues in regards to cheating that we've already addressed, Season 4, in my opinion, has gone pretty smooth. The lines of communication with the owners and a bunch of stuff has been going really, really well. So I just think we need to continue building on the positive stuff moving forward, so we can continue to have the best league we possibly can.
Hey, Brody, just to cut in real quick and ask you a quick question. Do you feel like the new verification system that you guys come up with on the PSN side, do you feel like that adds an extra level of protection against things like this, to where if they got something that's going on the website, it may not get through on the PSN side, you may be able to figure it out that way? And is it the general feeling that things that are done, underhanded things that go on like this, eventually one way or the other sort of come to the light? Was that the general idea here?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely all the verification stuff that True has put in place is definitely is a step forward. It's never going to be a step back when we start adding stuff like that. So I really think it's a really good thing that we've moved forward and handled that. But at the same time, I really think that there's definitely more we can do and things we can do better. It's pretty funny the other day when we're talking, I was just like, I'm not a programmer, so I'm just throwing everything to see if something's going to stick to the wall, and throwing ideas at him, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, I can do this, I can do that. That's not even possible. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Like, we're trying a bunch of different stuff. And he pretty much said to me, he's like, I have it all set up right now as pretty well as best as I can in regards to verification and API system. And he's like, this might actually give us another leg up as we continue to try to contact PlayStation to get part of their development program, because he can be like, I've already built this, and this for your systems, right? So they can look at that. The end goal and the end game would be something kind of cool where we could, Xbox has apps. I assume PlayStation has too. Let's say you watch like Netflix and stuff, right? So the goal would be pretty cool one day if we could have an LG app that's right on your console. You download it, you're good to go. You can use the website from your app. You can look at stats. You can watch games. You can do whatever you want, right? That would be kind of cool and ideal if we could get to that point. It also would help with verification and stuff as well. So I do think the verification stuff that has been added is definitely a step in the right direction. And I do think, like I said earlier, like we definitely still are pretty dependent on the community just doing the right thing, Right. Personal integrity goes a long way, whether this is the internet or not. Like, I try my best to carry myself on and off the internet the way I always am. Treat people with respect, be honest, do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I'm not in this for money. I don't get paid to do this. I'm in this because it's the pure joy of doing this, and it's fun. It's a hobby. It's it's kind of nice to have bragging rights saying that I'm a commissioner of one of the biggest online leagues in the world, right? So those are my reasons, and I really think that especially on the PlayStation side and especially on the Xbox side on some of my lower tiers, there's definitely a lot of new blood and not new people that are coming here for the right reasons. And I think that if we can continue to ride the positive train with all these people, we're going to get to a point where all this is going to be a lot better than what it is right now.
One last thing before we let you go. Real simple question. In the end, what's the takeaway message you want the LG community to get from this whole thing?
I think the two biggest things would be, number one would be if you're going to do something shady, like you're going to get caught, whether it's a couple seasons down the road, like right. We're going to get you. Like, it's hasn't been very often someone has kind of got away with something at that level and that big. Loose lips sink ships, and it always sounds like that people are willing to talk and willing to give something up. Whether you're buddies in season 1 and hate each other in season 2, I'm going to find out and I'm going to get you. And then the other thing too is just for the community to continue. The community just continue to do the right thing. If you know something shady is going on, do the due diligence. Do the honorable thing. Come to us. Let us know what's going on. We'll guide you through the process. We'll try our best to keep you anonymous as best as possible because that's one of the biggest things people hate. Some situations, obviously, it's not possible, but we're going to try our best to protect you, the individual who has come forward to help the league. So those are the two biggest messages I can kind of give to the community.
Listen, Brody, thanks for your time today. I appreciate you giving us a good half hour here to discuss this. We really wanted the community to have a chance to hear more directly in this kind of way some of the answers to the questions that they've been asking. So, again, thanks for your time. We really appreciate you making it for us today.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, it's always fun to come on here. I wish the Xbox side's media was a little bit bigger than what it is right now, so I could have the opportunity to get on and talk about their issues rather than write about them. So it is nice when there's something major gets on for me to be able to jump on here, give 20, 30 minutes of my time to make sure the community understands why something happened, the direction we're going, kind of get a feel for the decision-making process, so we can kind of move forward as a community and get rid of the negativity that's kind of going on. So I thank you guys for your time as well, and keep doing a good job with media.
All right, thanks again, Brody McDonald, commissioner here for League Gaming, and doing yeoman's work and thankless work, as Brody had said. It was something that. It's affected a lot of guys as they bring the rest of the team back in. A lot of guys who've done BOG work, who've even had to be GMs or AGMs with a team. None of these leadership roles are highly praised by a lot of people in the community, and certainly the higher up you go in LG, as far as responsibility is concerned, it's just more and more of a problem for those guys too. They really get beaten down. The bogs receive tons of emails, complaints that they have to rule on. They've got people in the shout box calling them fucking idiots for not getting into it soon enough for their liking. That job that Brody has, he loves it, but it is a thankless job. But all you guys have been management. You are management now. Any kind of a job of authority in any of these leagues is never a lot of fun, and you have to deal with this kind of stuff all the time when you're a GM, for sure.
Definitely, but I think there's also a lot of good things that come along with it that kind of balance out that frustrating parts.
Have you now? You've only been with your current team now, the Manitoba Moose. So, what's your experience been so far as an AGM over there?
It's been pretty good. I think we have a pretty good group of guys this year. I've obviously been GM in Stockton last year. I didn't want to really take on a GM role again, but being an AGM is a little bit less stressful. I find you can kind of get a little bit more of the responsibility that I wanted, but less of the hatred and the anger for making certain decisions and whatnot. So it's a good balance being an AGM, I think.
So, guys, this discussion that we just somebody is having a bit of an issue there. The discussion that we just had with Brody. A lot of stuff to go over there. A lot of questions that we threw at him. In the end, we'll start with you, Vibes. In the end, how this was handled by the league, and with the news that we just heard a few minutes ago that the titles will be stripped from Rockford. How do you feel overall about how this was handled?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I got caught TV on. I'm waiting for J Claus to come on. What was the question?
The overall approach by the league in dealing with this, including what we heard about Rockford getting stripped.
I think they did a pretty good job with it. I mean, you have to say that for a league as big as this, with as many facets and ins and outs and nooks and crannies, the level of incident is pretty low, so they do a pretty good job with it in general. And with this, I think they did a pretty good job. I was kind of blown away. I think you probably heard me say, wow, when he said that they were talking about potentially stripping Rockford's titles. I mean, for someone who was, personally affected by it, I felt as though it was kind of just move on, let it be. I mean, the title is tainted no matter what. Everyone knows that, whether they were a good team or not, because they were a good team, but whether they were or not, they had the fact of the matter is they had to cheat to win a championship. And that's just how it is. So the title's already tainted, but to hear that they might actually strip them, I honestly, I couldn't believe it. And I think that would be a huge step towards the direction of letting people know that the league isn't fucking around. Excuse my language. The league isn't messing around, and if you get caught doing something like this, it's not going to pay. The only other step that I would say is I see, my thing is, of all these guys, I think Claus is the worst. I think he should be gone. I don't think he should ever play in this league ever again, because he's a cheat. We know he's a cheat. He cheated once. He came back. In that very same season, he cheated again. Somebody like that's no good. They got to go.
I might agree with you on that one, Vibes. I've talked to Jay Claus, not recently or anything, but he's not a bad person when talking to him. But if you're going to cheat, then, they give you the benefit of the doubt. Come back. Don't expect you to cheat again. And you redo it. And you do it on a higher offense, you shouldn't be allowed to play in the league. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate by saying that, but, once a cheater, always a cheater, as they say, but, I mean, come on. You already been caught once. Don't continue it. Now, however, with the Rockford thing, I agree with them. Stripping the titles, they didn't earn them fair and square. We can't go back and replay, Chicago Wolves versus, I think it was Hartford. Can't go back and replay that one, which it would have been. So, stripping the titles is the best way to go about it. I believe they should have got harsher punishments, instead of just 2 seasons. I think it should have been a 3-season ban. Yeah, personally, because it was double tagging, should be automatic 3-season ban.
I think we're getting that. I think we kind of heard, we're hearing that on the site, aren't we, guys? I mean, we're seeing a lot of people feeling like, yeah, they're punished, but it's not enough. I mean, not just from the poll, but from the comments that we're seeing, in threads, in the shout box. I think a lot of people are a little pissed about this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, if Claus wants to pay out his ban, I mean, he can be playing again next season, right? This wasn't a management ban.
No, he cannot buy out the ban because it's a site ban.
Yeah,
site bans you can't get to buy it out.
Yeah, and that's I think he is absolutely gone for 2 seasons. But even with that, I kind of agree with a lot of folks, and with what Cosmo said. These guys made an egregious error, and I think you got to send a message and tell people, look, you can do all this, but in the end, you're going to lose your titles. You're going to lose any awards. You're going to come away as a villain on this because you're trying to mess around with a video game. I mean, enough's enough. There's not a lot we're asking of people in these leagues. If you can't do it, and you can't do it to the point where you have to cheat on a pretty sizable scale, just be done with them already. There are enough players in this league. We don't need to keep them just because they're really good. Who the hell cares at this point?
The thing, Sibs, is that the whole point of this league, it's supposed to be like a fantasy thing. You know what I mean? In a way, it's supposed to be fantasy. It's supposed to be, add an extra element to the fact that we already play the game already. If you're gonna cheat, what's the point? It completely takes away the point. Like there's absolutely no point to the league if you're just gonna cheat. For what reason?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, let's face it, I'm not the greatest player in the world. If I wanted to be good, then I'd just cheat. But I don't, because I'd rather be a mediocre player and do it the right way.
Well, I can admit that you're not the greatest player in the world.
Yeah,
but, I mean, I'm not the greatest player in the world either. You know, but you do your job well, at least on my team over in the other league. So
it's not a show about me. Anyway, so go ahead.
So what? Again, I'm the old guy here, right? So, what's the mindset? Coming short of saying kids today, what exactly is the issue here? Is this a generational thing? Is it person by person? Is it just the competitiveness in some people? What do you think drives somebody to do this? And do you think there is anything specific in this case?
Goddamn whippersnappers always on my lawn is what the problem is. No,
you want to get your shotgun too while we're at it.
I think it's a personal thing versus generational, because you have kids younger, under the 20s, in the 20s, even in their 30s, who play by the rules, who still cheat, and I hate to put this on you, Sibs, but even players in their 50s still cheat. I think it's personal thing. If they want to cheat, they're going to try and go around it, and try and break the rules and cheat.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's isolated to one particular age class. I think that, look, anyone can be an asshole, and anyone can be, regardless of age, anyone can be a good person. And I just think it's a matter of weeding out the pieces of shit. Excuse my language again, because that's what they are. They're pieces of shit. I'm sorry. I do feel a little. I get a little emotional with this because I don't think that these people shouldn't be here. They shouldn't play with us.
Well,
I don't play with them.
You should be emotional, Vibes, because you were directly affected by this. Everybody on your both team was directly affected.
It's bigger than me. It's bigger than my team. It's the fact that we sit here week in and week out and we put on a radio show about a make-believe league, and then some asshole is going to come by and, I don't appreciate it at all.
Yeah.
I think... go ahead, Sis.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I think you can almost feel sorry for some of these guys. I mean, to get to the level to be as good as some of these guys are, I mean, you know that they're playing more than any average person would play, and to have to come to the point where you're cheating, I mean, you have to think that these guys have a pretty pathetic life. That this is what the only thing that really can make them feel good is to try to do this to beat other people in an online fantasy game.
Yeah, I just don't get it myself. And just to go back to the poll again, we have 83 votes in right now. 52 of them are saying punishment should have been tougher. So, again, a lot of guys, you're not going to find a lot of people who are going to be in the corner of these guys for this situation, and I think it's not a shock. We have a lot of guys who are working hard. The funny thing is, again, the old axiom of the squeaky wheel, right? But and there are plenty of squeaky wheels in this league, but there are so many more decent guys and girls who play this game, who play it right, who don't want to cheat, and just want to have fun. And those are the ones who don't get hurt. And we wind up seeing a lot of bitching, whining, and moaning in the shout boxes, and I guess that's kind of what it's there for. But that winds up getting amplified a lot more than all the players who want to do it right. And it's sad that that's how it winds up being. But I think we have to maybe try and keep on to the idea that there are many more of us who want to do this the right way, and hopefully that'll make this all work. And this is a perpetual machine. And, as kids get older and you get another crop of new players that come into the league, I don't think we need to hold on to people who are trying to screw with the league at all.
And you want to know something, Sibs? All the guys that are coming to anybody who says that the punishment that the punishment was too strong, they're an asshole. It's just the bottom line. Anyone who says that the punishment was too hard and you probably could have been a little bit easier on them, they're an asshole. And that's fine if they want to be an asshole. That's perfectly okay. But as long as they can look themselves in the mirror every morning and look at the reflection and say, wow, you're a fucking asshole. Because they are. That's it.
Well, we're getting some notes over here, not in the shout box, but over on the YouTube channel itself.
Go ahead.
They're saying that if you cheat and you get caught, it should be a lifetime ban right out the gate.
I agree.
Because if you cheat once, you'll cheat again. And I'm not against that at all, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it sounds a little harsh in theory, but at the same time, if J. Claus got caught cheating the first time and he got a permaban from then on out, then instantly no one else is going to try that same shit. Like, it's just how it works, because granted, yeah, it's a virtual league. There's other leagues to go to, but at the same time, this one's the best. Like, SPNHL, yeah, it's okay, but it's fucking 9-10 man rosters, so that's kind of lame in its sense.
VG's also 9-10 man rosters.
Exactly, and it's just like, come on. There's no real competition when it's the same 6 dudes skating up every time.
Well, if those leagues were competition... Sorry, go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
No, I was basically what I was saying. I was like, you might as well just be playing Pro Series if you're going to field the same 6 guys game in, game out.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if those leagues were any competition to LG, I mean, you wouldn't have guys coming here and trying to cheat. I mean, they wouldn't care. They'd just play VG when they can play every night, right? They're coming here and trying to cheat because they know this is the best league around.
Well, I know Sibs, me, and Vibes. I have played all in SP at some point. Well, and it is, we can play as many games as we want in a week, but I still see there's some level of competition over there, but it's definitely a lot more spread out over here with more players and more teams.
Look,
but I would say the competition level is roughly about the same.
The main takeaway is this. If we were in Iraq, you'd be stoned to death, all right, for cheating. That's the bottom line, all right?
They play NHL over there, or?
Probably not. If they did and we were there, you'd be stoned to death.
Well, if they do, then they don't. I've never met someone from Iraq over here on, NHL. I have met a goalie from Ukraine over here, though.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what. Again, the poll is up. Go there, take a look at it, and go ahead and vote when you get a shot right on the main AHL page. And again, thanks to Brody for jumping on with us and talking about it and talking about the league in general and how they're dealing with all this. I want to talk briefly about the poll from last week, that being about the playoff format, and if folks. If the format was up for a vote, what would you choose? And top 4 teams in each division had 43 votes, some type of wild card, 37 votes. So, again, that topic, as we mentioned last week, thought it might be split down the middle because there's always people who are going to feel like this season they're getting screwed over one way or another. So I think that kind of proves the point a little bit, guys, that our playoff structure, no matter what it is, there will be people who will be thrilled with it, and there'll be people who will hate it. And I think that's probably the end result that comes out of this one.
Such as life.
See, in my opinion on that, I voted for keeping it the same top 4 in each division, just so we don't confuse, change everything up. However, the wildcard structure could be something like, top 3 in each division get a chance to make it, and then the bottom 2, 4th and 5th, play a wild card series, and the 4th, whoever comes out on top, goes on in that division.
Right.
But I mean, don't want to change things that are working currently, in my opinion. So I stuck it with the same top 4.
So we thank everybody for joining in on that poll, and we're going to try and get one of these out every week. And of course, as you know, the one is about the banning. Let's move on to actual hockey, guys. How about we do that? We got a chance to look at a bunch of games this week, and we wanted to try and talk a little bit more about the games that are being played and the teams involved and what we're seeing. Vive's got a chance to go over a bunch of games and suggest some things that we should take a look at this week, some of these games. What do you want to start with, Vives? Which game did you want to talk about first?
Game of the week. I mean, that was a pretty good game. I know that you obviously saw it since you were calling it, but that was a really good game. I mean, the Sound Tigers jumped out in front early with the goal by Skullfox. It was a nice passing play right to the center of the ice, and he banged it home. They jump out early, and eventually the Bears do get the better of them. But that game could have went either way, really. I really thought that Bridgeport played an excellent game.
Yeah.
Especially early on. I thought they really jumped on them, and they gave themselves the best chance to win. And as of late, it's probably one of the better games of the week that we've been privy to.
It was an interesting game, and what was really interesting about it was what Hershey had to deal with in that one. They needed an ECU center. We called up, we didn't call up, but we got an ECU in Vish B, a guy that we've played a few games with. He's been out there trying to be available to us as much as possible. We hadn't played him in a game yet. We got him in there for this one at a center position. I think anytime you're an ECU, it's tough. But when you have to play center on a line of guys that you're not used to, how does this work out? Well, what was really interesting in this game is the first period, it was a tough one for the Bears. Weren't really moving the puck around well. Weren't getting it into the offensive zone. And then basically what Mafia wound up doing was saying, look, this is how we're going to play. Him and Shady wound up being the feeders, and Vish just wound up trying to find open space to get a pass. And he winds up scoring a hat trick in his first game with us as an ECU because Mafia and Shady had the presence of mind to say, look, here's what we're up against. And instead of me taking the puck and trying to score, which is what they think is going to happen, we're going to move the puck. You find the space, we set you up. And it worked to a T, and Vish had an amazing game, 3 goals and an assist. Mafia and Shady, a pair of assists on those goals, and they just worked that perfectly and made a front line with an ECU center just perform well against a good Bridgeport team.
Well, the Bears defense also stepped it up after that first period, too. Making it harder for the Tigers to score.
It's the veteran presence of Mafia, man, on that one.
Yeah, and again, that's, he stepped up and did what he did. The defense, only 9 shots on goal on Moose, and Trap MC, if you watch the opportunities against him, he absolutely had to work hard. 13 saves, he again.
I was gonna ask if he's cutting in and out or not, or if it's just me. Yeah, he's cutting in and out.
Well, yeah, I don't know why that's the case because it's coming in clear to me. So it might just be what you guys are hearing. But anyway, I mean, anyone else want to talk about that game specifically though?
I mean, when you only allow 9 point of view anyway, then like that's always going to be, um, a good defensive game from the Bears anyway. They were able to get Moose, a couple of one bad goal it looks like, but other than that, they did really good.
All right, which game would you like to move on to here, Vibes?
Maybe even better than the game of the week actually is Gulls and the Monsters. That was a really good game. So a good game, but a weird game in the sense that it was kind of Cleveland's offense versus Clutch Dolphin, especially for the earlier portion of the game. And I gotta say, man, Cleveland is now you're probably gonna get on me a little bit, but Cleveland is my favorite team in the West. The way that that forward group plays, especially this one, the one that I saw the other night of Herms, Barty, and they are solid. The way that they move the puck, they're really mindful of their points and where their points are going to be. They're constantly trying to get the puck out to them if the passing lane is there. The best thing about them is they don't make bad passes. Like a lot of times you see these forward groups and they give the puck away. They pass the puck right through the center of the ice, and the next thing you know, it's going the other way. The patience and method of the forward group was excellent, and that was a phenomenal game. It ends up being 2-1, but probably could have been worse early on. But then the Gulls get a goal later on a breakaway.
Yeah, it was an interesting game just because the score wasn't indicative of who had control of the game. I think Cleveland certainly really had the first period was pretty much all them, and then from there it was it was continuous pressure from Cleveland, kept on getting the puck in the zone in the San Diego zone. And what Cleveland did really well was, if you watch their front line, Derms, Galchi, and Barchi, once they had control of the puck, those guys were immediately heading up the ice. They were in transition, and that kept the defensemen for San Diego from really getting involved in the offense because they had to be aware of those guys at all times. They really had to be on top to make sure nobody was getting behind them. And I think Cleveland, and at least this line, did that incredibly well in this game.
Yeah, agreed.
You mentioned a few other games as well that were interesting. Milwaukee and Chicago. And I know, Vibes, you have some concerns about, that
was the most interesting to me. That was the most interesting game to me because once again, the Chicago Wolves lose to their as Zeus says, their kryptonite. For some, I don't know what it is about the Wolves and the Admirals, but the Wolves just cannot figure them out, and they got their number. And you know what? You look down the list. And you look at the time on attack, and the Wolves, they out-timed on attack, and they outshot them. But I watched this game, and this could have been worse for the Wolves. Honestly, it could have been worse. I understand the time on attack difference, and it was in the favor of the Wolves, and the shots were in favor of the Wolves. But this could have been even worse for them. This could have been 6-2, easy. 5-2. And the Wolves are in trouble. I granted, I will give it to people that I hate on the Wolves a little bit because maybe I got a little bit of old feelings there. Like I feel like I should be the best manager in history or whatever. But that's besides the point. The truth is that the Wolves are in trouble, and Zeus is on here right now, and I'm going to tell Zeus, you're in trouble. And if if you don't have 2 good weeks in a row here coming up, you guys may not make the playoffs.
I don't agree with you on that.
You don't have to agree with me,
Like,
but
I agree that we're in trouble, but our team's already acknowledged that. 2 good weeks, that's not hard to do. We're just going to blame things like that. That's not going to be hard
you
to do.
said the none.
No, we've made roster changes, we've made lineup changes, which are going to be reflected in this week. So I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. I've been playing a little bit with a chip on my shoulder these last few weeks, and the chip
didn't do you any good in that game, that's for sure.
That was the week where I had a chip on my shoulder. So clearly, like I said, it's gone. Ever since the All-Star break, the chip is gone. So.
Oh, a bad chip. All right, I got you.
Yeah, like it was affecting me negatively. It's not an excuse, but it's.
It wasn't just affecting you negatively. I don't think. I think it was bringing the whole team down.
Yeah, that's
the way you were playing. One person can bring the team down, and I'm glad to see that you're back to your normal self and now happy like normal.
Yeah. Not trying to slit throats anymore.
It is interesting in your division, though, Zeus, that things are spreading out a little bit more. It's not quite as bunched up as it was, and now you're sitting 9 behind Cleveland, chasing them a little bit, and 5 behind you. This is, I don't know if I agree with vibes that you're in danger, but it does have to be a little bit worrisome at this point.
Well, Charlotte doing good last week. They did 7-2-1 in the last 10, so they're playing better than we are at the moment. But I mean, and it's nothing against the Moose, but they're 4-4-2. They did worse than we did in the past 10. So I don't see the Moose catching us just from a statistical standpoint. So I'd love to avoid the number 4 seed. But at this point in time, the 4 seed definitely in the playoffs. I mean.
Mm-hmm. I think those vibes. I think those 3 games are probably the ones that were pretty solid all week for us.
I'll just go into what I was saying before.
Yeah,
then.
Go ahead.
Like, so the everyone's trying to catch Wild. We're only 13 points back, so that's 7 games technically. That's not easy. It's easier said than done to catch those guys because they have OMG Price. Got to see him in the All-Star game. He did amazing. And aside from that, Cleveland, they've looked to bolster their team a little bit. They lost Jay Scott to a call-up. They picked up Mikey D off waivers, who, granted, people give him a lot of shit, but I'll actually back up Big Freeze on this. When Mikey plays seriously, he is a very good defenseman, and I can't blame the guy for not playing seriously when he's been waived from almost 7, 8, 9 teams or something like that. Like after 2 waves, I would be like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna finish out the rest of the season and start over next season. But Mikey's always been around. He's been trying to play, and that's good on him as a character because he hasn't quit once. Despite being on so many different teams. So, I mean, Cleveland's good now. I still think they're a great team. We'll just have to see if the new players they've had to bring in due to Jay Scott leaving and Mikey coming into the starting roster. We'll see if it bolsters the ones they lost to San Jose Barracuda 6-1.
Right.
Before we move on from this, I just want to point out to Mr. Zeus
and we will land in 4th, is what I said.
I could see Chicago being 5th personally.
I think
of course,
I think that Chicago is in serious trouble, and I think
you're both smoking bath salts. But hey, we could all argue about semantics.
I think Zeus knows it. I think he knows it, and I think he's trying to avoid it, and he knows that he's in trouble. And it might be an early exit for you guys. You guys might not even make the playoffs.
You're definitely crack if you think that, dude. But we'll see.
All right.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Rockford to pass Chicago personally. I mean, they
now you're really
And I think the end of that game made it look like we were going to dominate them, but I believe the Eastern North took that as an insult, the way we beat them, so they came back firing, and they took us out 2-1, winning the next 2 games. And unfortunately for Vibes, this settles it. So, unfortunately, East and North at the moment are the better division. And I hate saying that. Especially when I gotta say Vibes is right.
Okay, guys, let's try and move on to. I guess what we should probably try and talk about is the trade deadline show, and just the fact that we're going to be doing this next week, and what are we've been talking amongst ourselves about buyers and sellers and what may or may not be the focus for a lot of teams next week. What are we as far as a buyer is concerned? At what point next week does what makes somebody a buyer in this league by the deadline next week?
Here, I think a buyer and is gonna be someone outside looking in. Mm. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna use the Moose as an example. They might be a buyer trying to find that last 1 or 2 pieces to up their game. Maybe on defense. It's gonna be someone near the, whether it's helping out a friend or just trying to get ready for next season and move on.
Well, like I was talking before, I mean, I don't see there being many sellers in the AHL. I mean, it's not like, I suppose if you have a long-term manager, he can perhaps make a few trades to get some guys with long-term contracts, but with really, there's not many draft picks at play in the AHL level. So, I mean, as far as trying to be a seller, I don't see what motivation there is to be a seller in the AHL.
And that's kind of one of the things I was I was talking about last week. It's almost like the redraft in a fantasy football league. If management doesn't come back, why do they care what happens to their team? And so, I think what the league has to guard against there is, do we do you watch to see what moves are made? Are GMs trying to help their buddies win a cup? It's I kind of feel like you have to nail these guys down for a couple of seasons and not just one season. You guys there? Did I lose y'all?
Yeah, we're having. It seems like we're
We
having
lost us.
some really bad issues with you in particular, Sibs. But I think I have an idea of what your question was, and hopefully I'm being picked up over the air. Um, it's kind of hard to be a seller. Like it's really weird, like the way that things are formulated with.
Well, I also think if you're in the position where you're a team that's not doing very well, I don't know what